Kenson, Pabo.
Are you ready to make a difference? Join the movement that aims to make St. Lucia the best place to live, work, visit, and invest. The United Workers' Party is a team of forward thinkers, visionaries, passionate and caring citizens just like you. Together, we can create a brighter future, create safer communities, lower taxes, improve healthcare, and create more opportunities for all. Stand with the UWP and be part of change. Join the United Workers' Party because St. Lucia deserves better.
Youth and Sports Minister Kenson Kazime is under fire now that it has been revealed that he has acquired millions worth of real estate over the last 3.5 years. Since assuming office, Kazime has developed 3 villas in Union Hilltop. He is now in the process of constructing another development in Cap Estate, this time with 5 properties. What makes this transaction suspicious is that Kazime made a $100,000 cash deposit on the property. The total cost of the property is about $273,000. Compounding the situation is that a contractor, who is also a political financier of Kazime, is the one developing the minister's newly acquired Cap Estate property. This same contractor was awarded a multi-million-dollar contract for rehabilitation work done on the Darren Sammy cricket ground in preparation for World Cup cricket, as well as numerous other contracts in the constituency of Grosley. The allegations being leveled against the minister is that he has received kickbacks from the contractor for the Cap Estate development in return for the awarding of multi-million-dollar contracts around the constituency. Has Kazime filed these developments with the Integrity Commission? Prime Minister Philippe Pierre claimed that he would have a zero tolerance for corruption in his cabinet, although he has ignored numerous glaring examples of corruption amongst his cabinet colleagues. Will this be another situation that Philippe Pierre blindly ignores? St. Lucians deserve answers. Kenson and Philippe Pierre, Pabo.
The United Workers' Party reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the health and well-being of every St. Lucian. When re-elected, we will reinstate the National Health Insurance NHI program, a vital initiative that was regrettably abandoned by the St. Lucia Labour Party, the SLP. This decision by the SLP has left thousands of St. Lucians vulnerable with limited access to affordable quality health care. The United Workers' Party will correct this injustice because we believe that health care is not a privilege, it is a fundamental human right that every citizen is entitled to. The National Health Insurance Program was designed to create a comprehensive, inclusive, and sustainable healthcare system that ensures no one is left behind or left out. And that is regardless of economic status. Under the leadership of the United Workers' Party, the NHI will be reinstated to provide the following benefits to St. Lucians. 1. Comprehensive health coverage. Every St. Lucian will have access to essential healthcare services, which includes doctor consultations, hospitalization, specialist care, diagnostic tests, maternity services, prescription medication, and emergency medical attention. No one will be denied care because of their inability to pay. Secondly, we'll reduce the financial burden. Too many families and individuals face the impossible choice between seeking medical care and meeting basic living expenses. The NHI will significantly reduce out-of-pocket expenses, making healthcare more affordable for all, especially for vulnerable groups like the elderly, children, low-income families, and single parents. 3. Timely and efficient medical attention. Long wait times and delayed treatments often result in worsened health outcomes. With the NHI, patients will receive timely care, preventing complications and reducing the strain on our already burdened healthcare system. Number 4, it will focus on preventative care. Preventative healthcare reduces long-term costs and improves quality of life. The NHI will cover preventative services such as routine checkups, screenings, immunizations, and health education programs to promote healthier lifestyles and reduce the prevalence of chronic lifestyle diseases. Number 5, strengthening the healthcare system. The NHI will provide the financial stability needed to upgrade medical facilities, invest in modern equipment, and improve the working conditions of healthcare professionals. This will enhance the overall quality of healthcare services across the island. And 6, peace of mind for all St. Lucians. Knowing that quality healthcare is always within reach and accessible provides a sense of security. Families will no longer live in fear of medical emergencies they cannot afford, and every child will have the opportunity to grow up healthy and strong. With the United Workers' Party, St. Lucians will certainly have a healthier future. The United Workers' Party has a proven track record of investing in St. Lucia's health sector, from improving hospital infrastructure to increasing the availability of medical resources. Our vision for St. Lucia includes a robust healthcare system where no citizen is left to suffer due to lack of accessibility or affordability. The abandonment of the NHI by the SLP was a betrayal of the people's trust, but under the United Workers' Party, we will restore this critical program because we believe in a St. Lucia where healthcare is accessible, affordable, and reliable for every citizen. When you vote for the United Workers' Party, you are voting for a healthier, stronger, and more secure St. Lucia. Your health is our priority, and we will deliver. A United Workers' Party government wants to change this situation. This crisis demands more than just words. It requires leadership action and solutions. As a government, we will take decisive steps to restore law and order, provide opportunities for our people, and take our communities back from crime and violence. We will do the following. 1, empowering our youth with after-school and weekend programs. We will introduce holistic after-school and weekend programs that keep our youth engaged in sports, music, technology, and vocational training, providing positive alternatives to crime and idleness. Number 2, creating more economic opportunities. Many of our young men turn to crime due to lack of employment, and so we will work to ensure that we provide support to small businesses, create more entrepreneurial opportunities, and provide them with training programs to help individuals become more self-sufficient. 3, we will improve access to affordable housing. We believe that poor living conditions contribute to crime, and we will upgrade and develop affordable housing to provide solutions so that families can live in safer, more stable environments. 4, we will use technology to fight crime. We will invest in CCTV surveillance networks, smart street lighting, and crime detecting technology to help deter and solve crimes more efficiently. 5, revitalizing sports and community development. We will introduce and upgrade sports facilities across the island and organize regular sporting competitions to keep our young men engaged in structured activities instead of turning to crime. And I say this given the fact that the opportunity for this to take place has been eroded by the squandering of the funds that should be used for youth and sporting activities from the National Lottery after guaranteeing a loan of $80 million and having the National Lottery to finance that loan with $80,000 monthly, leaving absolutely no resources to provide for those programs for young people. We will introduce youth rehabilitation and second chance programs. We will introduce rehabilitation programs for at-risk youth and for first-time offenders, giving them a chance to turn their lives around through education, skills training, and mentorship.
Because you must understand that St. Lucia had no new investments for a very long time, And these things are a fact, the verifiable fact, as I always say. There was no new investment in this country from 2016, 2017.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre continues to push the false narrative that between 2016 and 2021, there were no new investments in St. Lucia under the United Workers' Party. But the results and facts are clear. While the world battled a global pandemic, the UWP was hard at work laying the foundation for economic growth, creating real jobs, and attracting major investments that began to transform our economy. Projects like Cabot St. Lucia, the DSH Pearl of the Caribbean, ITEL BPO, and Ojo Labs created thousands of job opportunities for young people and professionals. We welcomed Inter-Caribbean Airways, while Digicel's OECS headquarters opened up. A group of investors also began construction of the Courtyard Marriott at Point Seraphim, further boosting investor confidence. Serenity at Coconut Bay was delivered, alongside the opening of Belgio Hotel and the Harbour Club. Another investment is the state-of-the-art IAM-Jet private jet facility, which was built in Vieux Fort. We even signed a historic
Members of the media, those of you viewing and listening to us via live stream, a special good morning to you and welcome to another Flabo press briefing brought to you this morning, as usual, as we do every Tuesday. This morning, to present to you, we have three individuals who happen to be three of the United Workers' Party candidates. And we have with us the endorsed candidate for Micoud North, Mr. Elisha Norbert. We have the endorsed candidate for Soufrière Fort Saint-Jacques, Senator Herod Stanislas. And we have the deputy political leader of the United Workers' Party and candidate for Castries Southeast, Mr. Guy Joseph. To set the ball rolling this morning, I would like to invite, first of all, to the podium, Mr. Elisha Norbert, who will be speaking on the subject of education reform, as well as transparency in the sporting infrastructural projects that are taking place in St. Lucia today. So I'll ask you to welcome Mr. Elisha, who will be making his presentation right now. Mr. Norbert.
Thank you, Spider. Thank you. Good morning to members of the press. Good morning to the deputy political leader, those watching via live stream. Fellow St. Lucians, good morning. It gives me great pleasure to be here at the office of the leader of the opposition. And opposition is vital to a country's maintenance of democracy. It is something that we must accept as a necessary part of government. And stepping forward to serve my country in this capacity, I value and appreciate the tolerance for differences in opinions, differences in ideas, and I look forward to the day when we St. Lucians can live in a country where this is respected. Today I'm here to give the opposition's position on a few announcements pertaining to sports, calls for reform coming from persons like the president of the Teachers Association and the Principals Association, and also just a few remarks on the legal process as it pertains to elections in St. Lucia. So first of all, I want to mention that I am an endorsed candidate and not a candidate, as Spider mentioned earlier. We become candidates after we have accepted nominations. So a writ must be given by the Governor General that signals the date when nominations will be held and the date for the polling to actually happen. The election period, what some people sadly refer to as silly season in St. Lucia, it can be no longer than 28 days. So it's between 21 and 28 days from the date of the announcement given by the Governor General. On nomination day, every endorsed candidate or everyone seeking to become a candidate, whether you have been endorsed by a political party or just by persons from your constituency, you go to the place of nomination. You must be nominated by 6 individuals on a form, and you must agree, you must sign that you accept the nomination. That's when you become a candidate. That's when you actually are qualified to take part in the electoral process. And so that period of time has not been announced. All that's happening now, it's identification of persons who are competent, persons who have served in their constituency, persons who can speak on behalf of their constituencies, and the different political parties, other interested persons who are home and who want to step up. You have the freedom to do so right now. This is actually protected by the Constitution of St. Lucia. There's a section that speaks to freedom of association, freedom to participate. And that is what every St. Lucian, every right-minded St. Lucian, who has ideas, who dream of making this place better for the next generation, for our elderly, for persons with disabilities, you have the freedom to step forward. And I challenge the sitting government, I challenge the persons who are out there trying to set up barriers to discourage people from stepping forward to serve the nation. I challenge you to stop. Desist from that practice, because St. Lucia will benefit from all of us being involved in the democratic process. Our participation is protected by law. Bullying, victimization, fear-mongering, that is petty. And we need to put that aside. So I move to the announcements made by the Minister for Sports. A lot of these announcements provide hope. Hope that we are moving sports in the right direction. But too many times, hope is overshadowed by a lack of transparency, a lack of accountability, and delays are announced, excuses are made why projects are not being delivered. We heard that in Micoud North, we would have been able to use our playing field. It was over 6 weeks ago, but on the day the announcement was made, we were promised we'd use it in 6 weeks. We heard the Minister for Sports mention his investments in SPL. This is the 4th year. This is the ending of the 4th year. July 27th this year will be the beginning of the 5th year in government. Is this why these announcements are being made? These are questions I have to answer. As someone who has stepped forward to get involved in politics, I have to defend the sitting government. I have to propose new ideas, new visions, so that St. Lucians will not lose hope in our governance. I heard too many people cry over the past couple of weeks that, they want to see changes, they want to see reforms, but there is not enough accountability. Many times when we are asked to hold our government accountable, the only thing that comes in our mind, wait until their 5 years are up, and then we vote them out. But we demand accountability now. Too many unanswered questions pertaining to the $80 million, the loan that was taken by the National Lotteries Authority. Too many unanswered questions pertaining to contracts, projects all across the island, not just in sports, but a lot of allegations targeted towards sports. I am going to be tuned in tonight at the town hall meeting to find out or to see whether the minister will come clean, will give us the answers that we deserve, because it is our hard-earned cash that is on the table when we meet as the cabinet of ministers. Our hard-earned cash is what's in front of you. We demand accountability. We want to know how our money is being spent, especially if it's a loan, and our children must pay for it. Accountability, transparency is something I've advocated for as chairman of the council. One of the first things I did in Micoud was to add a financial and operationals report to every agenda, every month. When I came in, that was not an item on the agenda. Another thing I did, I asked the clerk to publish financial statements, monthly financial statements, every month to the public. Put it up on our window so when persons from the constituency come in, they could see how much money we made this month, how much money we spent. We, the next generation of politicians, we, the young people in St. Lucia, we demand better from our government. And I'm glad that at this time, I have aligned with a political party in St. Lucia who is obviously ready for that change. Lots of lessons were learned during the last election. They lost. And a great coach of mine, he said to me, there are more lessons to be learned in losing than in winning. And I know they have learned their lessons. And I know that they are ready for change. And you can see it by the actions that they are taking. Education reform. I heard the president of the Principals Association lament the fact that there were changes made to an islands examination, CPEA. And it was not relevant. A loss of a key skill, essay writing, and its applicability in today's society. We have news reporters here who have to write essays, write reports every day. Many of them are thankful for innovations like ChatGPT. Many police officers who have to write reports, they are thankful for innovations like that. Are we preparing our children for the world of work? Have our exams and the results of these exams been in sync with the purpose of these exams? If not, then in the field of testing, measurement, and evaluation, these exams and the use of the results are invalid. We educators must do better, because education is the training ground for our citizens. If we are not happy with the products of our education system, then our human resource managers will not be happy with the workforce. And recently we heard managers complaining about skilled workers who, in their minds, were not able to deliver. But in the minds of these skilled workers, they were doing their best. And some of these workers are the best we have on island. State-of-the-art technology must be introduced in schools. The Human Capital Resilience Project proposed TVET in every school. When I think about it, I think about dirty politics. It's like every single project is given a new name just so that the sitting government could claim it. Cosmetic changes, as you said. Why? While the people suffer. The sports academy. Could the sports academy have been strengthened, its program strengthened? Could it have received the financial support needed instead of creating a new high-performance center? Can the projects work together? Can our governments work together? This is my message. St. Lucians are looking for hope from our government, our political parties. We are not looking for competition, nasty competition. Behind me, the coat of arms, I want you to pay attention to the words at the bottom. Our St. Lucians are tired of a system that's working against the land, the people, the light. The United Workers' Party promises to take a different approach and make things better. Thank you very much. I'll take your questions at any point during the press briefing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elisha Norbert. Ladies and gentlemen, you just heard some of the changes that are taking place within the United Workers' Party. And I want to inform you, as Mr. Norbert indicated, as a young man, he recognizes that the UWP is ready for change. So much so that the United Workers' Party is presenting at the upcoming general election at least 12 new candidates. People, men and women of caliber, men and women of competence to serve you, to provide that hope that you need for a better future as we move forward in this country. And of course, Mr. Elijah spoke of the new approach to satisfy the new realities that exist, not just here in St. Lucia, but globally. Very importantly, Mr. Norbert spoke of transparency. And I want to echo some of the sentiments that he expressed. And I want, in this case here, I notice you mentioned my parliamentary representative, sir. I want to echo your sentiments and take this opportunity to call on Mr. Honorable Kensal Kazimi tonight at your party's town hall meeting in Grosley. Do not squander the opportunity that you have to finally, once and for all, come clean and to account to the people of St. Lucia exactly what it is that you have done with the $80 million that you had the National Lotteries Authority borrow, which you claimed was for preparation for World Cup, and up to now, you have not given us a detailed account as to how that money was spent. It is not good enough to say that it was spent on Mindo Phillip Park, on Darren Sammy Stadium, on Grosley playing field, and other playing fields. That scant report is not sufficient. We want details, specific, definitive information as to what exactly was done. Was it a wall? Was it a toilet? Was it the grounds? Exactly what was done and what it cost the taxpayers of St. Lucia to do each aspect of the projects that you are going to mention. And by the way, while you're at it, you can take the opportunity to explain to St. Lucians as well how you came by the sudden accumulation of wealth that we see that you have acquired in the last 3.5 years. You are a public figure, and you owe it to us to give us the comfort that there is nothing fishy, nothing underhanded, nothing untoward taking place with our officials of government. So do not ask questions as to whether a little black boy can take a loan. That is not the issue. The issue is, what have you as an individual done to acquire the wealth that you have earned? And if it is legitimate in terms of your acquisition of that wealth, come out. You have nothing to hide. Make the disclosure as you ought to. And I also take this opportunity to ask of you whether you have declared all of those real estate assets to the Integrity Commission that you all had disbanded for almost a year. These are important. These are the things that are in keeping with the laws of this country that will satisfy St. Lucians that we do not have a rogue government that refuses to account for their stewardship. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now call on our second presenter. And our second presenter, as I indicated to you, is Mr. Herod Stanislas, who was the former parliamentary representative for Soufrière-Font-Saint-Jacques, and he is once again vying to return as the representative member of parliament for Soufrière-Font-Saint-Jacques. And today he will be speaking to you on the issue of port management. As you know, it is very topical at the moment with what is going on at the ports, the strike or industrial action being undertaken by our truckers and so on. Mr. Herod will shed some light and, I imagine, ask a few questions. I present to you Mr. Herod Stanislas.
Thank you, Mr. Motut. Pleasant good morning to fellow St. Lucians at home and in the diaspora, viewers online, and to you, members of the media. I take this opportunity to address every St. Lucian with grave concern about the unfolding crisis at our nation's most vital economic gateway, Port Castries. Today, I am deeply troubled that this Labour government has allowed our port operations to slip into chaos, creating a stranglehold on our economy that threatens every household, every business, and every family in St. Lucia. A time when businesses are desperately waiting days and weeks for basic goods clearance. A time when our hard-working truckers are forced to pay unnecessary overtime charges through no fault of their own. A time when empty containers rot at our ports while merchants and supermarkets face artificial shortages. A time, ladies and gentlemen, when the cost of living spirals out of control because this government refuses to acknowledge the gross mismanagement of SLASPA. As a responsible opposition, we cannot stand by idly while this government's incompetence strangles our economy and burdens every St. Lucian family with the consequences of the failures. Today, we declare our unwavering solidarity with the truckers of St. Lucia, whose courageous protest has finally exposed the gross incompetence and negligence of this Labour administration. It is tragic that our truckers had to resort to strike action to compel this government to confront the crisis they created. However, the protest has achieved what months of warnings could not. It has laid bare the systematic destruction of our port operations under this government's watch. What we are witnessing at SLASPA is nothing short of gross mismanagement. Business people and citizens are waiting days and weeks for goods clearance, not because of global supply chain issues, not because of natural disasters, but because this government has systematically destroyed the operational capacity of our nation's economic lifeline. Our truckers, the backbone of our logistics industry, are being forced to pay overtime charges to customs officers through no fault of their own. Additionally, container space constraints have reached crisis levels, with our port transformed into a dumping ground for empty container shells. They are trapped in a vicious cycle of delays and additional costs, all because this Labour government lacks the competence to manage basic port operations. The truckers' protest has exposed the shocking reality of equipment breakdown and neglect at SLASPA. The former United Workers' Party administration understood the critical importance of port infrastructure. We established a competent board with a deep understanding of port operations. Between 2016 and 2021, we invested in the future, purchasing 1 new pilot boat, 1 reach stacker, and 2 forklifts to ensure efficient operations. We maintained our equipment because we understood that a functioning port is the heartbeat of our economy. But what has this Labour Party government done? They have allowed all equipment to deteriorate to the point where SLASPA is now renting a forklift from a private company and outsourcing pilot boat services. The Blue Boy machine, purchased years ago with taxpayer money, now sits resting and idling, a monument to wasted investment and gross negligence. This machine, which should facilitate efficient port operations, has become a symbol of this government's failure to maintain basic infrastructure. Is this the priority of a government that claims to put St. Lucians first? To allow millions of dollars in equipment to rust while forcing businesses to bear the cost of the incompetence. The consequences of this government's port mismanagement are devastating every St. Lucian household. the increased costs are being passed directly to consumers, to the mothers trying to feed their families, to the fathers struggling to make ends meet, to the small business owners watching their profits evaporate. Extra overtime for customs officers caused by the inability of truckers to clear containers efficiently means officers leave after 2 hours and must return the next day. Who pays for this inefficiency? The merchants, the supermarkets, and ultimately St. Lucians. Every St. Lucian family at the checkout counter pays for it. This double charge is passed on to consumers, creating artificial shortages, reducing choices in our supermarkets, and driving up the cost of basic necessities. When families cannot find the products they need or are forced to pay inflated prices for basic goods, that is not a consequence of market forces or supply chain issues. That is a failure of government. The shortage of trained stevedores has compounded the crisis. How can a government claim to prioritize employment while allowing critical positions to remain unfilled, causing further delays and inefficiencies? While St. Lucian truckers struggle and families pay higher prices, what is SLASPA's priority? Facilitating Global Ports Holding, GPH. They have blocked valuable space to accommodate GPH operations, and soon berths 2, 3, and 4 will undergo construction to further prioritize this foreign entity over St. Lucian interest. Empty containers are not being removed, taking up precious space while they rot in our tropical climate. Yet, space is being carved out for GPH operations. Is this the priority of a government that claims to represent St. Lucian interest? The Minister of Infrastructure and Ports oversees the operations of SLASPA, while the Minister of Finance manages financial matters. Yet, in the face of this ongoing fiasco that impacts every St. Lucian, neither minister has uttered a word. Are these ministers concerned about the crisis choking our economy? Are they even aware of the hardship the negligence is inflicting on St. Lucian families? The Deputy Prime Minister has indicated that the government will not get involved, preferring to leave it to SLASPA's management to deal with the crisis. Yet, this is the same Deputy Prime Minister who entangled the government and SLASPA against their better judgment in giving away port castries and port soufre to GPH for 40 years. When it comes to handing over our ports to foreign entities, this government moves with lightning speed. But when it comes to addressing the crisis affecting every St. Lucian business and family, they claim it's not their responsibility. This selective involvement exposes their true priorities: foreign interest over St. Lucian welfare. The United Workers' Party has always maintained a clear vision for ports in St. Lucia. We understand that efficient port operations are not luxury items, they are economic necessities. We had comprehensive plans for the development of port castries, Port View Fort, and exploring the possibility of a deep water port at Cul-de-sac, long identified solutions that would serve St. Lucian interest first. A United Workers' Party government would never allow our nation's economic gateway to deteriorate into the chaos we see today. We would prioritize equipment maintenance, ensure adequate staffing, and manage port operations with the efficiency and competence that St. Lucian businesses and families deserve. We would never force truckers to subsidize government incompetence through unnecessary overtime charges. We would never allow empty containers to rot while creating artificial shortages for St. Lucian consumers. We would never prioritize foreign port operators over the basic needs of our own people. This port crisis is not an act of nature. It is a direct result of this government's gross mismanagement, misplaced priorities, and fundamental incompetence. While they focus on accommodating foreign port operators and implementing unnecessary and burdensome taxes, St. Lucian families suffer the consequences of higher prices, reduced choices, and economic uncertainty. The truckers' protest has done more than expose port inefficiencies. It has revealed a government that has lost touch with the struggles of ordinary St. Lucians. A government that claims to put people first, yet allows basic infrastructure to crumble. A government that moves swiftly to accommodate foreign interest, whilst remaining silent when St. Lucian businesses and families cry out for relief. We call on this government to stop the excuses, end the ministerial silence, and take immediate action to restore competent management to SLASPA. St. Lucian families cannot afford to subsidize this government's incompetence any longer. The people of St. Lucia deserve better. This Labour government needs to take responsibility for the economic hardship the failures have created. We stand with the truckers. We stand with the businesses struggling to serve their customers. We stand with every St. Lucian family paying higher prices because of this government's failures. It is time for this government to act with the urgency this crisis demands, or step aside for leaders who will put the interest of all St. Lucians first. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Herod Stanislas, for that comprehensive overview of what is transpiring at our ports today and what passes as management on the part of our government. And you mentioned in your presentation that the government says that they're putting St. Lucian first. Actually, they never said so. They said they're putting people first. And while they did not verbally express or make any disclosure as to who it is that were those people that they were putting first, their actions, their behavior, their deeds have certainly demonstrated to us who they are putting first. And as you quite rightly indicated in your presentation, it is undoubtedly the foreigners that are being put first by our government in every respect. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to call on our final presenter, and for the benefit of the media, when Mr. Joseph is through with his presentation, I will open the floor for questions to any of the presenters that you may have. I would like to call on Mr. Guy Joseph, the Deputy Political Leader of the United Workers' Party, to make a presentation on some constituency matters as well as UHC, Universal Healthcare. Mr. Joseph.
Thank you very much. Mr. Montut. Good morning to everyone in the media, everyone following us on the live feed in the diaspora and wherever you may be. It is Tuesday morning, the third day of the 2025 hurricane season. I bring you special greetings from the United Workers' Party, and as you know, this is one of the forums that we use to bring the truth to light to the people of St. Lucia. As I indicated, we are in the hurricane season. It is rather unfortunate that we've not heard anything really from NEMO. What is going on? I don't even know that inspection of emergency shelters have been done in most communities. At least in my community, I know the church is an emergency shelter where I attend, and I have not seen or heard anything in relation to this. But as we reflect on where we are, as St. Lucians, first and foremost, not United Workers' Party supporters or St. Lucia Labour Party supporters or persons who are not affiliated to any political party, we are first St. Lucians. And when St. Lucia does well, every one of us benefits. I did indicate that I will deal with a few constituency matters. And it is rather disheartening and sad when I say to St. Lucians that the St. Lucia Labour Party has a special hatred and dislike for Castries Southeast. Every day it is evident by the behavior of the government and the persons on the Labour Party side who have offered themselves to represent Castries Southeast. And the latest incident to prove what I've been saying happened just over the weekend. A good corporate citizen visiting from the United States came to St. Lucia from the community of Forestier. Forestier, Tiroche, and Genoa, very well connected communities. The health center for the area is in Tiroche. So everyone from Forestier does not have a health center. So everybody goes to the Tiroche Health Center. The post office is in Tiroche. Everybody who uses the post office from Forestier has to go to Tiroche because Forestier does not have. So the connection between the communities. Children from Geno attend school in Forestier while there's a school in the Tiroche area. And very interlinked. And this gentleman who came by, he looked at the court. It was in a total mess. So he paid some young men in the area to pressure wash it. And he had discussions with the persons of the development committee, and they agreed that he would paint the court. I was not involved as a politician in the process. We're talking about a corporate citizen. And the paint was purchased on Sunday morning at Harris Paints, I think. I don't know if it was purchased the Sunday or if it was purchased the Saturday. But I was passing and I saw them. They were scraping off the old paint, pressure washing, and then they painted the court. And I asked the gentleman, he said, well, he had discussions and they used the color that was in conformity to the school, the health center, and the old daycare center that is in an abandoned state. Somebody must have called the parliamentary representative, and he came there and started quarreling about the color that the court was painted. And he made remarks to the point. I was informed that he used obscene language in his comments by the persons. I was not present. I can only report on what I was told, and there's more than one person, even last night, that was further verified. And he said that he was going to pin the court over. And I challenged the media to go there this morning, and you'd see that the entire court that was paid to be painted by a corporate citizen has been repainted. So the court got 2 coats of paint, one on Sunday and one on Monday, and it is painted in gray. Now, what does that tell us? St. Lucia, I want you to pay attention. There are so many other facilities that need painting in St. Lucia. For 4 years, the Labour Party is in office. That court has not been touched or painted or anything done to it. The gentleman came and he said that this is government property and nobody has a right to go and paint it, not realizing that this project was rejected by the Labour Party government when Menisa Rambali was the parliamentary representative. You know what the response was? They don't have enough people in the area to build a multi-purpose court. The community got together, and the same corporate citizens in the community put in the time and the effort, and the court was built without the involvement of central government. Today, so it tells me the level of wickedness of this Labour Party government, and Mr. Joachim Henry in particular. He could have painted the court in red. You think I would be offended by a court being painted in red? And I said it. The court could always take 2 coats of paint. But if you go there, the inside wall of the court, which the corporate citizen did not paint yet, was not painted either. So the inside wall of the court is a mess. As I passed there this morning on my way to here, and there was nobody painting. But yesterday, the entire court was painted. The outside wall that was painted by the corporate citizen is painted in gray. Now tell me, why would any St. Lucian corporate citizen come into St. Lucia wanting to make a contribution to their community, want to get involved, when that is the attitude of the Philip J. Pierre administration? Now I want to tell them, we repaired the Bel Air Road, not the Bel Air Road, the Chopin Road. Are they going to go and dig out the concrete and now put new concrete or asphalt? We are in the process of fixing. So if the rep wants things to fix in the constituency, I can give him a list of the things that we are working on. We started work on the bridge going to the farms in Crown Lands. Just one piece of it has been done, so Mr. Parliamentary Rep, instead of going and remove what we put there, go and get it done. They have 8 houses we are working on repairs. I can give you the list. I will be happy to give you the list to go and fix it. The Tiroche School, the auditorium where we used for the meeting, is in need of a ceiling, which the same corporate citizen who painted was willing to do. We want you to go and put in the ceiling for the building. The road going to Flosac number 1 is in a total mess. We were going to bring a couple trucks of concrete to fix it. We would be happy if you would go and do it. Because it cannot be. It means that the government always had the means to paint the court, but never did. And as somebody else did it, so you felt that and the thing was not even yellow, not even the yellow of the color of flambeau, Because I don't believe in going and paint things in the community, the colors of political parties. When we painted the CDCs, we painted the CDCs the colors of the flag to show that this was national housing. And we see that this Labour Party government, they are painting bridge railings in red, which is not the international code for road safety. And we talk about road safety. We see the bollards that they place on the sides of the sidewalks. You are supposed to use the yellow, which is reflective of the light when it flashes. Colors are not used. When you use red, it's a dead color. It's not reflective. So you don't see the danger. We have challenged the Minister of Transport to justify the red colors that they are using on road safety issues. So, St. Lucia, when Labour Party was in office, you can ask the procurement officers, they were not allowed to purchase notepads that was yellow. And that was from the days of Dr. Kenny Anthony. You can ask any of the procurement officers. Not even a yellow notepad. There was the pinkish color one and the white ones. These were the only ones permitted. Are we that divided politically? That we cannot even paint things a particular color in this country? So, Mr. Henry, I hope that you can address all of the issues that I have mentioned there, because rest assured, with or without you, we are going to fix the things at the Tiroche School. We are going to fix the things, the houses that I mentioned. We are going to fix the road in Flosac, and we are going to repair the houses for the individuals. You know how bad it is, St. Lucia? A gentleman was promised support to fix his house for 4 years. Strong supporter of Mr. Henry. For the 4 years, he did nothing for the gentleman. That same corporate citizen went and purchased material for him. He informed me that Mr. Henry asked him to return the material to the gentleman. Don't accept anything from them when he has not done anything for that gentleman. That is the parliamentary representative of Castries Southeast today. But I didn't come here just to deal with that. My colleague from Micoud North requested explanation on the $80 million loan for the NLA. It is not today that the Labour Party has been squandering the money that is to be used for the young people of St. Lucia. I have a list in my hands there, and I challenge them to prove me wrong. 2015 to 2016, millions of dollars from the national lotteries was spent through a program that was the minister's account. Minister Sean Edward the present Minister of Education, was then Minister of Sports, and there was an account open that was called the Minister's Account. And they challenged me in Parliament, and I was able to bring the document. So I can say it out here. I want them to prove me. And on this is a list of hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars was spent. On this, you passing by Marigo, I challenge the media to go and look at the little changing room next to the Marigo playing field that looks like a 40-foot container, abandoned. $600,000 was spent. And you know who was in charge? Ada Inc. And you know who Ada Inc. belongs to? Mr. Joachim Henry. And I challenge the Labour Party, when you want to label people and you want to say things about people, I can say what I have to say anywhere, anytime. And there, I will not call the people's names, but I can show you resurfacing of playing fields. Marigo playing field, $420,980 to take some loads of sand from Roseau Beach. The sand was not even paid for, and to spread on that playing field. Mon playing field, resurfacing, $385,815. All of that NLA money. Listen to this. Carpentry and joinery and floor wall and ceiling finishings. Larry Shoes playing field. Now, I don't know if the playing field has a ceiling. I don't know what that description is. They spent $236,530. That was the estimated cost. The actual amount paid was $269,225. A difference or a cost overrun of over $32,000. Listen to this. If you go, there are so many of these that I see another one. So one for the Marigo playing field is dated. Listen to this. One for the Marigo playing field is dated 15th November. $462,477. The other one for the Marigo playing field is dated 15th September, same year, $420,980. So almost $1 million of NLA money. So you see what is happening with NLA today? That's the MO of the Labour Party. That is how they operate. The money that should be used for young people, now $800,000 every month is to be paid by the NLA for the next 15 years. So all of the scholarships, the sports scholarships, the support for athletes, and all of these things that was coming from the National Lotteries Authority has vanished. And we cannot get an account from the minister, from the Prime Minister, who is the Minister of Finance, for the $80 million of the National Lotteries loan towards the improvement of playing facilities. And while we are talking about that, the poles for the Bexon playing field is still in the grass, and the lights are still in a container. and not one light has been placed in that area, while 80 million is spent. Now, I move on from constituency issues. I want to deal for the next few minutes with universal health coverage versus universal health insurance. A United Workers' Party in its 2021 manifesto highlighted what we would do in healthcare. And I want St. Lucians to pay attention to what I am going to say. This is what we did while we were there. Commissioned the OKEU hospital, converted Victoria Hospital into a respiratory clinic, refurbish and upgrade 14 health centers or wellness centers, as we call them, island-wide. Constructed 2 new wellness centers in Mikud and Ancillary. Extended operating hours of the Grozile Polyclinic to midnight. Increased budget for medical assistance to the public from $700,000 to $4 million. When they tell you, oh, Honorable Alan Chasney was not doing things to help the people, $4 million. And that is for health coverage, especially for persons going to Matnik. So while Labour Party was spending $700,000, we spent $4 million. That is more than 5 times the amount that Labour was spending. Also, we were working on construction of a brand new St. Jude Hospital. Because sometimes people want to tell us, well, what did you all do when you all were there? I want to make it clear to St. Lucians that what we were doing is well documented. Because sometimes people don't take the time to read. So here's what we would have done. And this is what we said we would have done. In our first 100 days in office, introduce $3 million to back to school program targeting vulnerable and single parents. Introduce consultation and prepare strategies for the introduction of unemployment benefits. Pass legislation in respect to national health for all. I will stop there on the health because I'm focusing on health. But what was our response to the health crisis of COVID? Because it is easy for us to forget how quickly COVID came upon us. We found an economy that was in decline. Kenny Anthony said, something happened that never happened before. They went to the market to raise money through bonds and treasury bills and could not raise the money. They asked them to go and put their financial house in order. You know, instead of putting their financial house in order, what they did? They called the election 6 months earlier. Because Labour Party could not put their financial house in order. And fortunately for St. Lucia, the United Workers' Party, under the leadership of Honorable Alan Chasney, won the elections. And as he had indicated, he needed 3 years to put the economy back on stream. And as the economy was taking off, COVID hit us in 2019. St. Lucia, let me remind you, we had a few months to convert the Victoria Hospital into a respiratory hospital. So we commissioned the OKEU hospital. In record time, we moved from VH to OKEU. conversion of Victoria Hospital into a respiratory clinic, along with the upgrade of other polyclinics island-wide. Establish an isolation and quarantine unit. You remember how many quarantine units we were operating in St. Lucia? While in other countries in the Caribbean, people had to be staying in schools. In St. Lucia, people were staying in hotels as quarantine. You know, if the Honorable Alan Chasney had put people in schools, what they would have said, he's a hotel owner, he's this. But the St. Lucians, that's in St. Vincent, people were in schools, in different places. In St. Lucia, you remember Starfish Hotel? Bellevue, all the places that was available, the government paid for people to be in quarantine. Procuring of services of the Cuban Brigade of nurses and doctors. You remember? Shortage of nurses. People getting sick with COVID. Planes not flying. We were able to get the nurses and doctors out of Cuba to St. Lucia to assist St. Lucia in dealing with COVID. Procurement of personal protective wear, ventilators to outfit medical facilities. You remember that? America was not even allowing the ventilators to go through their ports because every country was for themselves. A UWP-led government by the Honorable Alan Chasney and then Minister of Health Mary Isaac, we were able to secure the things that was required. So we were able to get the ventilators. When other countries got vaccines and St. Lucia had not gotten vaccine, they started labeling Alan Chasney as not caring about St. Lucians. But he was able to get the vaccines that was required. And I'm not afraid to touch that. We went into a partnership with Barbados and the Bahamas to order vaccines. And the persons who were supposed to supply the vaccines did not supply. The money was paid. A percentage of the money has been refunded to the government of St. Lucia. Yet still every day the Labour Party supporters are asking, where is the money? Has the Prime Minister reported, as he indicated in the town hall meeting in New York, that when he goes back to St. Lucia, he's going to give an update? And the gentleman who was given the money have hundreds of acres of land in St. Lucia. So you always have a fallback position. And the matter is being dealt with, and the money is being paid. But you're not hearing the labor rights telling you about this. So, we established isolation quarantine units. We got them, we got the doctors here. Procurement of personal protective wear in equipment. Procurement of COVID wardens. You remember we had to put COVID wardens in place to help control the spread of COVID. We had to do social stabilization. NIC Economic Relief Program for 3 months, which assisted 22,000 displaced workers. Direct government income support to 5,000 non-NIC contributors, including the artists. Because during that time, nobody was working, nothing was happening. St. Lucia, you must not forget what the United Workers' Party was able to do in a crisis situation. Tens of thousands of free masks for the public, income and corporate tax filing extensions, bank credit unions moratoriums, tax credits to businesses for at least 70% of their staff, fuel rebate to minibus drivers, electricity assistance to more than 4,000, credit of $75 per household. Rental payments suspended for 6 months for those renting from government. National Meals Program feeding thousands. Food boxes to 1,000 households weekly. Agricultural produce purchased from local farmers to sustain them. Tax incentive to local manufacturers to diversify production into sanitary supplies, soap, hand sanitizers, etc. Public assistance program, cash transfers, increase from 2,600 to 3,600 households. We increased the number by 1,000 households. Since the Labour Party came into office, they have cut it down by 700. Cash top-ups for marginalized groups, children in foster care, persons with disabilities, and persons living with HIV. Hygiene care packages for vulnerable households. You see what we say? Not period products. Hygiene packages for the poor and the needy, vulnerable households. So, where am I going with this? We did all of this in a crisis situation, and OKEU was not lacking basic supplies of medicine, pillows, bed sheets, water, and these things. You know how many thousands of bottles of oxygen had to be purchased to keep these people who had contracted COVID alive? And I remember the present Minister of Health, Mr. Moses Jabatis, coming to the Parliament and saying that the government was responsible for certain people who may have died because he heard there was a shortage of oxygen at the hospital. Well, today is not just oxygen, and there was not a shortage of oxygen. But think of a bottle of oxygen that cost over $230. And how many bottles were used at the hospital? Today, you don't have gauze and thread at the hospital. You don't have Panadol. Moses Jabatis is guilty of genocide in this country. We cannot have a health sector that is so badly managed. We had a new CEO come to the hospital. Where is he? When last you heard from the CEO? What is the upgrade of the hospital? Over 400 people died when Labour Party came into office under COVID, while we had managed it to only about 80, and even the 80 was high. St. Lucia, the United Workers' Party has proven that we are 10 times better than the Labour Party in handling healthcare and the economy in this country. Now, I was in this room and they brought in a team of consultants to present to us on national health coverage. NHC. UHC, Universal Health Coverage. I was taken aback. I was sitting next to the candidate for Dennery South, Mr. Benson Emil, who was the PS for Health. And Mr. Benson opened his computer and he showed me, because I was sitting next to him. He told me, but all these things these consultants are presenting there, we are years ahead of them. Why would the Labour Party have all the plans and, as you said, cosmetic changes? So rather than call it National Health Insurance, they want to call it Universal Health Coverage. What's the difference? Now, I like to bring my evidence to prove what I am saying. So I am going to show you what the Labour Party said, because it is relevant. When they introduced VAT in 2012, in their manifesto, St. Lucia Labour Party blew our blueprint for growth, and the blueprint is in red. And you know when your account is in red, what that means. You know when the economy is in red, it's not good. You know generally most things in red, not good. Okay. Here's what Dr. Anthony said. Government must respond to the growing and changing needs of its citizens. That is on the value-added tax. Page 13. Among these are the needs to ensure that all children from birth get access to quality education. All citizens have access to affordable health care. Now, I will stop there on these two. There are many more on that VAT was supposed to achieve. Tell me which parent that is not paying preschool for their children today. And how many years we've been paying VAT? From 2012 to now? 12 years? 2013. 12 years we've been paying VAT. For these 12 years, parents are still paying for preschool. But here's what he said. All children from birth have access to quality education. All citizens have access to affordable health care. Tell me how many people can afford health care in St. Lucia today. Now, that's a promise of the St. Lucia Labour Party made in 2011. If you want to believe their promises, believe. On page 38 of the same manifesto, universal health care, a reality. This is what Labour Party said in 2011. It is our party's mission to ensure that every St. Lucian has access to a package of guaranteed health services. In this term of office, our party will, not may, will implement universal health care. I want to ask St. Lucians, Dr. Anthony and Philip J. Pierre was in office from 2011 to 2016. Do we have universal health care coverage? Philip J. Pierre came in with his 2021 manifesto. I like to say it in their own words. This is what he says. Universal health care on page 20. And I know I'm repeating this, but I will repeat it as often as I have to until it registers in the minds of every St. Lucian. He says universal health care will be implemented within the first term of a Labour Party government. He says St. Jude Hospital will be reopened within the shortest possible time. And the shortest possible time is certainly not 4 years. Because 4 years is on the corner. OKEU Hospital will be adequately resourced with proper emergency services. Ask yourself, when you go to OKEU, are there proper emergency services? We shall make the employment of eligible contracted nurses and doctors permanent. And I say to you, as of late last month, May, nurses who had worked from since December, some of them had not been paid. We want quality health care. And you have money to hire a consultant to redo all what was done previously, all the documentation. And you know what really puzzled me? And we questioned the consultants. Now, I gave the government the opportunity to speak about it. It's 2 weeks I've been asking them. The consultant, I was sitting in a seat by that table and I was taking notes. And the consultant said to me, you don't need to take notes. The presentation will be sent to you all. That's more than 3 weeks ago. I inquired up to this morning and the presentation has not been sent. But Guy ain't no fool when he sits around a table. I took my notes and I asked my questions. Because when I take my notes, I understand what I write and what I hear. So I'm still waiting on the consultant to keep to his promise of sending the presentation. But St. Lucia has the truth about the UHC that the Labour Party has not told you. They make you believe that it is free. And in the presentation that was made, it is not free. It is a health insurance that has to be paid for. And the financial models they have that is being discussed includes an increase in VAT. Did you hear me? It includes an increase in VAT. Now, the Labour Party promised us that a percentage of GDP. Here's what it says. In demonstration on page 20 of the 2021 manifesto. Here's what it says. In demonstration of a Labour Party government commitment to health care and the well-being of its citizens, a percentage of GDP will be committed to the maintenance and improvement of St. Lucia healthcare system. We were never told that there was going to be additional taxes. We were never told that they would put a health and security levy on the false pretense. We were never told any of these things. What we were told is a percentage of GDP is what would be used. Now, the new model for financing is not coming from GDP, it is coming from the pockets of St. Lucians. So, I have asked the Labour Party to be responsible and tell St. Lucians the truth. And in closing my presentation, what the consultants have presented, there's no implementation of universal health care on the horizon because they are so far behind. If they had taken the work that was done by the Ministry of Health, they could have implemented universal health insurance, which is what a UWP government promised. But I want to say here that a United Workers' Party coming into office, we had done all of the groundwork for universal health insurance. And in a very short time, we will be able to roll out universal health insurance. And the consultants had to admit when they sat with us that, look here, we can see what you all have. But if we are given a job to do consultancy, we do a job for consultancy. Has the government told us who they appointed to do the consultancy? Have they told the people of St. Lucia how much this consultancy is starting? Now, I'm always mindful of my words. And I know I said Moses Jean-Baptiste is the one I hold guilty of genocide. I don't hold him. I hold the Labour Party because Mr. Jean-Baptiste could not do anything by himself. It is a cabinet of ministers who sat and did not vote adequately for the health budget and to improve OKEU. And St. Lucia, we don't make false promises. We ask you 5 for 5, you did not give us 5, so you did not get 5. We are asking you to give us 5 years. We will introduce unemployment benefits. We've not heard a word from the present government on this. Monthly assistance to the elderly will be increased. Parents will not have to buy books for their children to go to school. We are going to reduce VAT to 10%. With labor, there's a possibility that it can go to 17.5%. With UWP, it is going to go down to 10%. And medical care for all, $75,000 health insurance coverage for every St. Lucian. This is what a United Workers' Party will offer you when you re-elect us into office as soon as the next election is called. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for this comprehensive overview of our health situation here in St. Lucia and what the United Workers' Party, more importantly, plans to do in terms of addressing the problems that we now experience. I would now like to invite questions from the media to the gentleman who presented to you earlier. So if you could please use the microphone so that our listeners and viewers can hear what the questions are. And depending on who will either choose to answer or is asked to answer, I will hand over the microphone to the individual.
My first question is for Mr. Mr. Elisha Norbert. What is your response to your opponent, Jeremiah Norbert, asking you to resign your post as a teacher to run the seat?
Thank you for the question. Good morning again. Honestly, I have nothing much to say to Jeremiah about that. The people of St. Lucia know that a call for resignation is made to persons who are not fulfilling their duties on their job. I am a teacher. I've been a teacher for the past 21 years. My appraisal scores over 85%, sometimes 98%. And I know that my work as a teacher is valued. I love teaching. Right now, Jeremiah needs to manage his anxiety. His prime minister has not called an election. The governor general will notify us as to when we are in the election period. So the time for that will come. Instead of focusing on what I am doing to prepare myself for this journey up ahead, he should focus on his job. He is the Minister for Persons with Disabilities, and I have begged him to visit the schools that take care of persons with disabilities. He has not visited the Vifford Special Education Center, for example. He's the Minister for Crime Prevention. We are yet to hear of a comprehensive plan. Now, I know that he said that the ministry was given to him in name. He did admit that. This is basically ridiculing the people of Micoud North and the people of St. Lucia to provide zero resources for a minister. I am doing my job. I'm not resigning. If he's not able to perform his duties, if I was in his position, I would have resigned. But I can do my job. Let me do it for as long as I need to do it. And let's just wait until the time for the election period is here. Thank you.
Before we take the next question, I must say, I heard quite clearly, if you are not doing your job, then you need to resign. The message is loud, the message is clear. Honorable Jeremiah Norbert, I hope you got the message. Now, we talk about having, that one took me by surprise, I must say, that Jeremiah Norbert said that he has a ministry only name. I must say that's not the first time that has happened. That reminds me of Dr. Mondesi, when Stephenson King named him as Minister of National Mobilization. I remember asking Dr. Mondesi, where is that ministry? Who is the officer in your ministry? Where is the logistics for that ministry? It existed only in name. Now, we must stop playing games with the people of St. Lucia in that regard, but you will hear more from me on that subject. Another question, please?
Yes. Mr. Stanislas, based on the current situation at the ports, how effective would the former administration's plan to shift cargo operations to cul-de-sac, how effective would it have been? Do you see it as a means, something that would have prevented what we are now facing at the ports?
Question for Mr. Stanislas.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Like I alluded to in my presentation, we had a comprehensive plan for port development of Castries, Port View Fort, for the home porting, as well as additional works on the cargo area, and examining the possibility of a deep water port in cul-de-sac. We had a very good board. The Slasper Council were quite knowledgeable of the operations of the port, and I could assure you, had we remained in office today, the problems which the port is facing right now, the truckers are facing, would have been non-existent, because we were well advanced in our plans, in our development, and managing all the issues of the port.
Okay, now your opponent, Ms. Emma Hippolyte, declined to comment on what the truckers and the business community by extension are currently facing, despite her portfolio as Commerce Minister. What do you say to that?
Well, I'm not surprised. This is a government. This government have given up on St. Lucians. The Prime Minister keeps on telling you, follow the science. He is not the police officer. His father was the police officer. They're both silent. They are the two ministers responsible for SLASPA with operations and finance. They're both silent. Honorable Emma Hippolyte was the one who said, kill it. I'm not surprised that she has nothing to say as Minister of Commerce. But it shows you that this government, this Minister of Commerce, and of course Parliamentary Rep for Soufrière, they do not care about the people of St. Lucia. They are an uncaring government, and they are very quick to work with, to assist foreigners. But when it comes to St. Lucians, to the lives, the livelihoods of St. Lucians, to what matters to ordinary St. Lucians, they do not care. They rather stay silent, but they are all over the place, cutting secret deals with foreign interest over the interest of St. Lucians. So it speaks volume to her role as Minister of Commerce and, of course, Parliamentary Representative for Soufrière for Saint-Jacques, where the incident taking place at the port right now not only affects all St. Lucians, but people in Soufrière as well. Single mothers in Soufrière, fathers and families in Soufrière are suffering as a result of the inflationary pressures this government is causing on St. Lucians. And she rather remains silent instead of addressing the situation head-on to bring relief to truckers and the St. Lucian population. We could have seen this week, unfortunately, we had a boat that struck some log or something out in the sea, and they had to come to the Soufrière port for refuge. Very fortunate that nobody got injured or there was no fatality, and I wish them, the captain and crew, the best. I think they left for Martinique last evening. But it shows you that the government was able to assemble marine police, the marine unit, as well as maritime, to help salvage the boat. But up to today, after almost 1 year, we still have 2 boats in the cemetery in Soufrière. The government have not shown any zeal, any effort in removing those 2 boats in the cemetery. Not that I am against the salvaging of the boat, the foreign boat, but it shows you that the priority is not about St. Lucians, not about the living, far less the dead, but the boat was salvaged and the boat left Soufrière for Martinique.
Any other question?
Mr. Guy Joseph, you spoke about some issues in your constituency. Your last post, Mr. Joseph, was Minister for Economic Development, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the last administration was accused of costing the country millions in revenue when you reduced VAT by 2.5%. The Minister of Commerce yesterday announced that a number of items will now be zero rated. She said it started on June 1st as a promise, one of the Prime Minister's promises to ease the squeeze on St. Lucian citizens. Do you feel vindicated now? I mean, you guys reduced VAT by 2.5%. They've zero rated some items. Do you feel vindicated after all of what your government was put through?
I'm not even concerned about what the Labour Party says and whether people are vindicated or not. Here's the reality. They said that we should not reduce VAT because the government was losing $52 million for the year. Who pays VAT? Who pays VAT? The people of St. Lucia. So if the government loses $52 million, you know who gains from this $52 million? Every St. Lucian. So that is the difference between United Workers' Party and the St. Lucia Labour Party. We don't believe that all the money should come to government. We believe that the more money you can keep in the people's pocket, the better. So when the political leader, the Honorable Alan Chasney, spoke about ching-ching, keeping money in your pocket, when we reduce VAT by 2.5%, the IMF opposed, the World Bank opposed, everybody opposed us. But you know what? We stood our grounds and we reduced the price, the percentage of VAT. And the economy still performed better under UWP government than it did under St. Lucia Labour Party government. So, going to the other part of your question, now that Mr. Philip J. Pierre is 3 years too late in reducing that price, because the price he is reducing is going to have no impact on making life better for St. Lucians. Emma said kill it. They've killed St. Lucia. That is what they have done. They have killed the average St. Lucian in terms of their economic status. So let me break that down so we understand. When prices were going up after COVID or during COVID and after COVID, we asked the government when they came into office, because that's what a UWP government would have done. We would have capped the price, not of the goods, because you don't have control over what price the foreign goods are sold, but you have control over what you charge at your port of entry. So when you brought in a container, let's say from Miami, that used to cost $5,000 US, that price had gone to $8,000 US. But you don't have more goods in the container. It's the same 40-foot capacity. So what we were saying to the government, keep the freight cost fixed at $5,000 and calculate the duty, the CIF cost, freight and insurance using a base price of the $5,000 so that the importer, the chamber, the business people would not have to pass on all of that cost to the people. And the government would be making no less money than they did previously. In fact, they would be making more because the calculation on the goods would have been higher. You know what the Prime Minister's response was? Inflation is imported. So I want to ask the Prime Minister now, is inflation not imported anymore? You see, this is an election gimmick because this is for 6 months, and that's why I know election is this year. Some of these things and some of the things they have announced that they will implement will be after elections. So this is an election gimmick. You see, just like the manifesto promise, and you can go through all the promises they've made in all of the manifestos. And you know what you will see? Almost nothing has been implemented. So I welcome the reduction. But I say to the government, too little, too late. Because the 6%, you know how many of these things the 6% was removed on already? So I challenge St. Lucians. After it's implemented, go to the supermarket and tell me what prices have changed. Because there is something about commerce that we don't. When prices go up, the chances of it coming down is very limited. Now here's where the rip-off is by the Prime Minister. It's on the price of fuel. You remove 50 cents on a gallon of fuel when you should have removed $3.50. So when you give up 6% there, which is minimal, but we use about 24 million gallons of fuel a year. At $3 on each gallon of fuel. So 2 million gallons a month by $3. 2 threes is 6. 6 12s is 72. So we're talking about the government making in excess of $72 million. On that's not what they're making, that's the excess revenue that they are making. And you want to tell me you're giving St. Lucians relief? There's no relief. The only government that can give relief to the people of St. Lucia is a United Workers' Party government.
Let's move to your constituency. So, two things.
Maybe before you go there, and I needed to say, based on the cost of goods, what is happening with the truckers is having a direct impact on the cost of the goods. You see the extra days these things have stayed at the port because of truckers' strike. You have demurrage charges. You have rental charges for the containers being on the port. Who you think is paying for that? And that problem is primarily caused by GPH. Prior to GPH being in control of half of the port, where did SLASPA ever have these issues? When the crane broke down, we were still putting out more containers than we are doing today. Next question.
Let's move to your constituency. What is your response to Joachim Henry's claim that the land distribution in the Belly area in particular was unfairly done? He claims that you had promised over 200 people that they would receive land allocations, a number of them from the same family. He even said that Mr. Rush Clark was one of the names that were approved to receive a parcel of land.
So, Rush Clark is a St. Lucian. Rush Clark had no dreams of being in politics when he applied for a piece of land. And I did not approve Roche Clark. We approved a list of names. And nobody applied to Guy Joseph for a piece of land in Bele. Everybody went to the Crown Lands Department, made an application at the Crown Lands Department, and the Crown Lands Department in turn submitted a memo to Cabinet which was approved with the list of names. Now, I want to ask them, what's so different about the Labour Party making an announcement that everybody who's been on Crown Lands for 30 years, they're going to give it to them for free? You see, so if we have 2 children from the same family, I want St. Lucians to pay attention to what I'm saying and understand. So you have a mother with 6 children. 2 or 3 of them are of age to be on their own. So because they belong to the same family, they cannot apply for a piece of state property. So you're going to make it an issue because more than one person. And I don't necessarily believe, because I wouldn't know everybody who is related to a family. I can tell you what I know. I can tell you the ministers of government who bought 32 lots on people's names and refunded people money they had paid on lots on the Millennium Highway, and these lots ended up on ministers' names within the present Labour Party government. You see, I keep on telling people, I don't have no axe to grind with anybody. I don't have to look over my shoulder, because you know what? The same Mr. Henry, in order to win the elections, a UWP government under my representation acquired the land in Odsa for people who had been occupying these lands for over 40 years. That land belonged to the late Susie Doven. They didn't know who to pay after she passed, what was going on. We acquired the land, and we were doing a subdivision. And we were going to sell the land maybe $3 or less a square foot for the people. And the people who had been there for 40 years or more, about $1, just to pay for the surveys and the basic things. The same Mr. Henry went house to house and offered everybody the land free of charge to gain votes. The people voted for him. I want to ask the people in Odsa, how many of them have received title to one piece of land in Bele? So I want Mr. Henry to know, on the UWP government, we acquired the 35 acres of land in Bele. And that was land owned by the bank. You know why the bank owned the land? The bank owned the land because the person took a loan on the property, left the country. I didn't just go and acquire the land. I called the people at the bank and they told me we would be happy if the government would acquire the land and do the subdivision. At least the bank will get some of its payment. So we acquired there, we acquired Forestier, and we acquired Odsa. Apart from that, all of the geese lands in Roseau, Goodlands, Cul-de-sac was acquired by a UWP government to make it available to St. Lucians. So when the Labour Party want to come and rejoice and do election gimmick to try and fool the people, we didn't go and do that as an election gimmick. And if Joachim is so concerned about the people of Castries Southeast, why did he sit in a cabinet and the land in Deglo that is occupied by residents there, and one individual applied, a businessman at that, applied to buy the land when we were in government at 42 cents a square foot was what the planning department offered him the land for. And he still said it was too expensive. 42 cents a square foot. We said we are not selling the land to one individual. We are going to subdivide it and sell it to the people who live there and first-time homeowners. the Labour Party came into government with Joachim as the representative, and the land was sold to that same individual, and I understood it was sold at 32 cents a square foot. That is why I tell you the Labour Party despises the people of Castries Southeast. So, we approved hundreds of people for lots. You know why? Because we were making hundreds of lots available to St. Lucians. And I assure everybody who lives in Castries Southeast, when you re-elect me and the United Workers' Party into office, in the next 5 years I will spend in office, I will make 1,000 house lots available to people in Castries Southeast, especially first-time land and home owners. And some of the land will be sold below 10,000 EC dollars a square foot. And when I make promises, I keep them. A lot. One lot will be, some of the lots will be below the cost of $10,000. We are putting it within the reach. You see, they promise gas station attendants that they would get villas, condos in cul-de-sac. I see no condos in cul-de-sac. I'm not promising what I cannot deliver to win elections. I'm promising what a UWP government will deliver. Because I can fall down and die tomorrow. Somebody will replace me. But once UWP is in office, 1,000 house lots will be made available to residents. And I know it's been replicated in Soufrière, in Micoud North, throughout the length and breadth of St. Lucia. You will see it happening.
My final question to you. Joachim Henry has announced a plan to build a Castries Southeast market in cul-de-sac. Now, I know you had plans and you had initiated a Bexo market. What say you to that?
Oh, anything that's developmental in nature, I welcome it. But he's so clueless. So I have the entire plan that he has. Okay? The market is scheduled to open 1 day a week, as we speak. And they carried out the survey. There are over 285 farmers, and they can only accommodate 30. So I want to know how they're going to select the 30. You see, it is, now I should have my report in my vehicle, you know. But I will show the report the next time I speak to this. What we said we were doing, and let me show you what real planners and people who believe in creating value. The Labour Party had acquired the land where UNESCO was by the bridge because they wanted to put the road on the river bank. When I came in there, I spent weeks debating with engineers. I said, if you put the road on the edge of the river, you kill the value of the land on the other side of the road because you now have to put a bridge to cross to get to the land. So they said they want one main junction. So I said, build a big roundabout. That's what you do anywhere in the world. So that big roundabout you see in Calde, because they wanted one junction for the Mon going down to Soufrière, Millennium Highway, and Bexon Vieux-Fort Highway. You mean the people planning at the Ministry of Infrastructure could not see that you don't need one junction to form a cross? One to go across the other. You understand? So I was the one who insisted, let's build a bigger roundabout. And you can go and see the ceremony. I gave my speech at the sword turning ceremony for the Japanese bridge that was being built there. And so anybody can see anything wrong with the present design? And now you have KFC there and you have the other side of the road which has equal value. That is how you create value in a constituency. So when they said I was living Cap Estate, I tell them I'm not living Cap Estate. I don't want to live Cap Estate. I want to make my constituency into a Cap Estate. That's what I want to do. Create real value. And I live in Forestier. And if you go to Forestier now, we can compare to Cap Estate. Because we have created value in the community. That's what representation is about. Representation is not cheap politics for you to get a few votes. And I intend to create more, a lot more. You see, in Forestier, by the third year in the next election, I will have another 100 lots available in the community of Forestier for residents and people of St. Lucia in general.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. I think we're going to have to come to an end, come to a close at this point. I want to thank the three presenters, Mr. Elijah Norbert, Mr. Harold Stanislas, and Mr. Guy Joseph. I want to thank members of the media who facilitated the press conference this morning, the press briefing. I want to thank all of you who are watching on live stream, and I want to say a special thanks to those of you in the diaspora who continuously watch our programs and support the programs of the United Workers' Party. Please stay tuned to the United Workers' Party. That is where you get the truthful information, and that's where we shed the light so that St. Lucians can continue to have hope. And we ask that you join us on Thursday for Meet the Opposition from 9 in the morning. On Sunday, we'll have another Sunday Live in Denry South. And of course, we'll continue next Monday with, is next Monday a holiday? Yes. Next Monday is a holiday, so we'll not be having like it is. I want to thank all of you and have a good day.